An overgrown graveyard stalked by chilling ghostly presences, a weathered old mansion harboring the spirits of its former owners, and a desolate country road where mysterious apparitions are likely to hitch a ride await on this list of some of the most haunted places in Illinois. Let's jump right in. Hey guys, and thanks for tuning in for this journey through some of the most haunted places in the Prairie State of Illinois. Recognized for its intricate history, wildly famous sports teams, and some of the best deep dish pizza in the world, the land of Lincoln boasts a much darker side, one wrought with classic ghost stories, spine-tingling urban legends, and age-old folklore. Are you sure you're ready to get started? Okay, so our first haunt lands us in Illinois' largest city at the Chicago Water Tower. The Chicago Water Tower, which is located where else but Chicago, Illinois, is an iconic landmark that looms over the old Chicago Water Tower district that's recognized for its role in a brutal blaze that once swept through the city, and that's surrounded in a slew of ghost stories and classic local legends. Historically, this formidable water tower was first constructed in 1869 under architect William W. Boyington and was designed to pull waters from Lake Michigan in tandem with the adjacent Chicago Avenue pumping station to both supply clean waters and also to aid in firefighting efforts while controlling water surges. While the tower itself was certainly something to behold, it would truly grow into prominence following the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, when it stood as the only public building within the central burn zone to survive the blaze. And to date, it's actually recognized as one of the few surviving structures that's surprisingly still standing. Notably, and rather ironically, the tower did not survive unscathed, however, and during the fire, the roof of the tower would smash down on the pumps, stopping their flow of water while rendering fire hoses useless to contain the blaze. Following the fire, the water tower would become recognized as a symbol of old Chicago and its resiliency and recovery from such disasters. From 1913 to 1916, the site would welcome renovations which saw most of its limestone replaced. In 1918, the widening of Pine Street would allow the tower its own featured location, and in 1978, a second renovation was held and would namely focus on remodeling the interior. More recently, in 2014, the small park hosting the tower would be named in honor of former Chicagoan Mayor Jane Byrne. The Chicago Water Tower remains a landmark to this day, and its setting is often utilized in events, photo shoots, and more. In consideration of its lengthy history, this stalwart tower has long been saturated in tales of supernatural activity and spectral encounters, and both inside of and around the site, visitors have reported disembodied bootsteps and shouts, extreme cold patches felt even through the heat of summer, and instances of objects sighted moving around on their own. Several informal investigations of the expanse have yielded orbs captured in photography, high EMF levels, and EVPs entailing what are believed to be the echoes from the fateful blaze that occurred so long ago, and several have detailed encounters with both shadowy figures and full-bodied apparitions clad in old-timey firefighting garb. Easily the most famous legend surrounding the Chicago Water Tower tells that during the fire, despite the encroaching danger, in an act of true self-sacrifice, one worker chose to stay behind in order to man the pumps. And when the fire got too close, he hanged himself to save from the pain of being burned to death. His spirit has been sighted desperately attending machinery that is no longer there, and several have described sighting a disturbing shadowy figure hanging within the column. Our second haunt takes us just northwest of Chicago to the famed Woodstock Opera House. The Woodstock Opera House, which is located in Woodstock, Illinois, is a famous and highly popular performing arts venue that, over its years, has played host to a number of famous acts and that's believed to accommodate the spirits of performers and patrons long since passed. Historically, in 1889, the building holding the Opera House was constructed to house a library, a council room, a justice court, a fire department, and a second-floor auditorium for the city of Woodstock. And just a year later, on September 4th of 1890, the Patty Rosa Company would provide an inaugural performance of Marjorie Daw. Over the years, the Opera House would come to be recognized as McHenry County's central venue for entertainment, such as vaudeville performances. Through the early 20th century, and as traveling circuits began waning, it would act as the Chicago area's first summer stock theater, and in 1934, it would host the Todd Theater Festival, which was a 6-week summer fest put on by the Todd School for Boys and organized by Orson Welles. In 1947, a group of local citizens would form the Woodstock Players, which would support students graduating from the Goodman School, and that included Paul Newman, Tom Bosley, Betsy Palmer, Geraldine Page, Shelley Berman, and Lois Nettleton. In 1968, the Town Square Players were established, and in 1975, the Woodstock Musical Theater Company was founded and would be hosted within the Opera House. More recently, in 2013 and during the site's 80th anniversary, it would dedicate its stage to Orson Welles and would hold the Todd Theater Festival, and in 2019, Theater 121 was established from a merger between freestanding organizations and continues to perform annually into the present. Aside from the renown and recognition the Woodstock Opera House has earned through its performances, this historic site is also widely considered one of the most haunted places in Illinois, and staff, performers, and patrons over its years have reported a slew of inexplicable phenomena, including disembodied footsteps and voices, the constant feeling that someone unseen is always lurking near, and instances in which phantom music or applause is heard from the auditorium when it's completely empty. Several informal investigations of the site have yielded EMF levels, crystal clear EVPs, and orbs that are both captured in photography and visible to the naked eye, while others have described hearing old-timey music that emanates from thin air, and run-ins with shadowy manifestations. By far the most famous ghost story surrounding this opera house tells of a beautiful former actress named Elvira. According to this legend, long ago, Elvira had dreams of making it big. However, when she tried out for her dream part, another girl was chosen instead, resulting in her falling into a deep depression and taking her own life by way of leaping from the tallest point of the building. To date, Elvira's sulking spirit has been spied wandering the property or replaying her final moments, and her old seat, DD-113, is always saved for her and has been known to fold and unfold by itself. Our third haunt has us straddling the Missouri-Illinois border at the McPike Mansion. The McPike Mansion, or Mount Lookout, is a prominent and sweeping estate placed out of Alton, Illinois, in the greater St. Louis metro, that fits the bill as the classic weathered old haunted house, and its bounds are tied to a number of local legends and tales of the otherworldly. Historically, in 1869, construction of the McPike Mansion was started under Henry Guest McPike and was designed by architect Louis Pfeifenberger. In the same year, Rulander and Diana grapes produced on-site were considered amongst the finest at the Mississippi Valley exhibition. For a time, McPike, who was a savvy businessman and real estate investor, would actually serve as mayor of Alton, and later, through the 1880s, he would act as the librarian of the Alton Southern Illinois Horticultural Society, before, in 1910, passing on due to illness right within the confines of his lavish abode. Over the years, the McPike Mansion would change hands a number of times. In 1925, it was purchased under Paul A. Leitschinger, who would reside on site while renting out rooms until his passing in 1945, and through subsequent years, the site would be left abandoned and would stand the tests of both time and ransackers, who would end up stealing what was left of its furnishings, decor, and amenities, including its toilets. More recently, on June 17th of 1980, the property would be listed on the National Register of Historic Places, spurring an interest in its preservation, and in 1994, it was purchased by Sharon and George Ludke, who initially intended to transform the estate into a hotel under promise of government backing. Unfortunately, but not all that unexpectedly, following their purchase, federal, state, and local governments would bow out. However, undeterred, the couple would set to work on their own renovations, which they funded through donations and tours, and in 2017, the Alton Historic Commission would actually present them with awards for their efforts. The McPike Mansion remains open into the present, offering a range of touring options, events, and even opportunities for private investigations. Chillingly, this weathered old homestead has long been shrouded in tales of terrifying paranormal activity that have even warranted it several appearances on various high-profile Haunted Places series, and both staff and visitors to its bounds have reported disembodied footsteps heard from empty hallways, forms or faces that appear in reflective surfaces, extreme cold spots, and instances of doors opening and closing on their own. A handful of investigations have yielded high EMF levels, chilling EVPs, orbs captured in photography, and hits on both thermal grids and communicative devices, while other accounts detail objects sighted moving around inexplicably, the phantom sense of tobacco smoke and old-timey perfume or cologne, and a strange dizzy feeling that's become so strong at times it's resulted in some having to leave the property entirely. The most famous McPike legend claims the old home's premises is stalked by the spirit of its original owner, being Henry, and a multitude of reports entail encounters with an apparition fitting his description, who is often sighted ascending or descending the stair, and that most believe is simply keeping an eye over his treasured manor from beyond the grave. And on to number 4, which takes us on a trip down the infamous and iconic Kennedy Hill Road. The township of Byron, which is placed along the Rock River in Ogle County, Illinois, is a sleepy community shrouded in history that ties itself to one of the state's creepiest urban legends, which in turn is associated to a rural stretch of road rumored to harbor a handful of chilling ghostly presences. Historically, through the early 19th century, founding members of Oregon and Rochelle, Illinois, who were actually descendants of the English Puritans who'd settled all along the East Coast through the 1600s, would arrive to the Ogle County area from New England, and would be comprised namely of farming families whose journeys were made all the easier by the 1825 construction of the Erie Canal. Upon their arrival, they would find a vast range of forests and prairies, and would begin construction of various roadways, government buildings, and postal routes. Notably, these initial settlers were namely Episcopalian and were strong proponents of education and abolitionism. In 1836, Ogle County was established out of Joe Davies and LaSalle counties, and would derive its moniker from Revolutionary War hero Joseph Ogle, who'd settled in Illinois by 1785. By 1837, what was previously upheld under Joe Davies County would fully transition to an Ogle County government, and in 1839, a portion of Ogle County would break away to form our modern Lee County. Later, in 1841, an Ogle County courthouse was designated, but would burn to the ground before it could see even one day of use, after which another courthouse wouldn't be established until 1891, and this newer unit stands as the county's court to this very day. More recently, a 2020 census would list Ogle County with a population of just under 52,000. Predating the founding of the county itself by just 1 year, Byron, which was founded in 1835, is an unassuming small locale recognized namely for its Byron Nuclear Generating Station, which is actually one of the last nuclear power plants commissioned by the US and boasts one hell of a small-town ghost story. Traveling just north of Byron along the Rock River, one can find an inconspicuous country route known as Kennedy Hill Road. Chillingly, this rural byway is recognized as one of the state's most haunted locales, and both those who live in the area and motorists who have braved it have reported a range of otherworldly phenomena, including phantom radio transmissions, strange bursts of wind and extreme cold spots, and instances of vehicles stalling out or of parked cars refusing to start entirely. Those who have walked Kennedy Hill have described disembodied footsteps, ghostly voices that drift on the winds, and sightings of unknown or unidentifiable animals that slink through the nearby woodlands, while a handful of informal investigations have yielded high EMF levels, chilling EVPs, and hits on communicative devices such as spirit boxes or Ouija boards. By far the most famous standing local legend, and one that a number of dark tourists travel to the locale to test, is that of the Phantom Lady of Kennedy Hill Road. Sightings of this mysterious woman began around 1980 when one Kim Anderson reported turning down the route after attending church just weeks before Christmas, after which she sighted a young woman who, despite the cold, was walking towards Byron clad in nothing but shorts and a light top. Despite her lack of adequate seasonal attire, this woman did not appear cold and walked as if in a trance. Over subsequent weeks, months, and years, this same woman has been sighted numerous times, and though many have stopped to offer help, with several even claiming to have picked her up, she always seems to vanish just before reaching town. Saving the best for last, our fifth and final haunt takes us just to the south of Chicago to one of the most famously haunted graveyards in the world. Bachelors Grove Cemetery, which is located just out of the Bremen Township in Cook County, Illinois, is an infamous and overgrown burying grounds that, since the time of its founding, has hosted a range of classic ghost stories and tales of encounters with the inexplicable. Historically, lands now holding Bachelors Grove were initially inhabited by tribes native to the region for thousands of years, including the likes of the Potawatomi, and following colonization, the Midlothian area specifically was ceded to the US through the 1816 Treaty of St. Louis. Initially, the area surrounding Bachelors Grove Cemetery was originally settled by English and Irish homesteaders through the 1820s and early 1830s, most prominently of which was arguably one Stephen Rexford, who arrived around 1833. In November of 1844, the first burial near, which was that of one Eliza Scott, would transpire, and according to legal documentation, the cemetery site itself was first sold in 1864 by one Edward M. Everdeen to a Frederick Schmidt, who would set aside 1 acre for the use in a graveyard. While it's unknown how the name Bachelors Grove came into being, notably, some claim it was derived from an early family, Bachelor, that lived by the plot in and around 1845, while others believe it had to do with the fact that several single men inhabited the locale. And incidentally, several variations of the moniker do exist in the forms of Bachelder, Bachelder, Berzel, Petzel, Bachelor, Bachelor, and Bachel. Over the years, Bachelors Grove would grow in infamy as a haunted place, namely through the 1960s and 70s when, due to its secluded location, local kids began sneaking up to the yard to drink, party, and tell tales around fire pits. And sadly, over these same years, the cemetery would be exposed to vandals, with a number of markers incurring damages, and only a handful of the original ones left standing. According to President Emeritus of the Tinley Park Historic Society, one Brad Bettenhausen, this is where the ghost stories all started, and groups braving the old yard would often return to town in a panic with chilling accounts of inexplicable phenomena. In 1989, the last of Bachelor Grove's burials would take place when one Robert Shields was laid to rest on a family plot. In the present, Bachelors Grove remains open from sunrise to sunset, and while some still insist on sneaking in after dark, we wouldn't recommend this course of action, as local patrols are very aware of its popularity, and have even taken to hiding officers within the yard, while leaving patrols on stakeout in the Rubio Woods, in order to warn the former of encroaching cars. Nevertheless, the area remains a popular dark tourist destination, namely through October, when its claimed activity is at the strongest. Shockingly, this small, unassuming yard has grown in fame at an international level due to its ridiculous range of purported supernatural infestations, and those exploring its bounds have documented extreme cold patches felt even through the heat of summer, instances of forest surroundings seemingly coming to life and reaching out to snatch at those who wander too near, and strange blue orbs visible to the naked eye that seemingly react to those living around them. A vicious black phantom dog with glowing red eyes has been known to chase trespassers from the property after sundown, and many who have stayed just a bit too late report arriving to their vehicles to find them dead, rendering them trapped at the site until help arrives. The pond right near the grove plays home to its own legends, and near, many have told of harrowing encounters with a giant two-headed monster that emerges from the depths after dark, while other accounts detail the sighting of a ghostly farmer or cowboy and his horse, who, legend tells, died sometime through the 1870s when their house spontaneously slid into the icy waters midwinter. Some tell that through the golden age of gangsters, early crime families would use Bachelors Grove as a body dumping grounds, and apparitions in attire from the era, being pinstripe suits and sequin dresses, have been observed wandering the property, sometimes sporting grievous wounds, while others point out a period from the 1960s through 80s in which a number of satanic ritual sites and even sacrificed animals were uncovered. Subsequently, a few reports entail the hearing of demonic whispers or eerie chants that drift on the winds, while others tell of run-ins with inhuman abominations that are suspected to be a result of said rituals. A more abstract phenomena experienced by many who brave the grove tells of encounters with a strange portal that appears after dark, and those who have looked through it have described an old white farmhouse, sometimes with its lights on and figures moving around within. Those brave enough to attempt to get close to this abode are always met in disappointment, however, as the portal begins shrinking the nearer they get, and the image always ends up fading away entirely. Several informal investigations of the cemetery have yielded high EMF levels, chilling EVPs, and hits on pretty much every communicative and heat-censored paranormal research device known to man, while others commonly report sighting the faintly glowing apparition of a woman in white carrying a baby eerily through the yard. In 1991, what is still considered one of the most compelling instances of ghost photography in existence picked up international steam when one Judy Huff Feltz of the Ghost Research Society visited the area and managed to catch a spectral woman on camera, an entity which, ever since, has come to be known as the Madonna of Bachelors Grove, and that has been captured in other photographs over a dozen or so times. Lastly, it's not just the cemetery itself that harbors spooky stories, and those who have traveled the roadways surrounding have told of being chased by phantom cars or trucks from bygone eras, all that move unnaturally fast, and that, at times, follow them for great lengths until they leave county lines. Bachelors Grove Cemetery, with its rich history dating back to early settlers of the region and its surprising array of stories of ghostly encounters, inexplicable phenomena, and chilling legends, stands as a testament to an enduring fascination with the supernatural. Its overgrown bounds have captured the imaginations and hearts of countless individuals worldwide, and despite stalwart efforts to keep visitors out, it remains a magnet for dark tourism and paranormal investigations, drawing in both the curious and brave to a realm where the impossible manifests, while ensuring that its legacy as one of the most haunted places in American folklore endures. Thanks for joining me on this journey through some of the most haunted places in Illinois. If you enjoyed hearing my histories and ghost stories, subscribe to my channel, throw this upload a like, and share me with anyone you feel could use a good scare. I'll see you all next time.